Picture this, a smooth, cracked shell sitting completely empty at the mouth of a dark, flooding cave. Heavy rain is just pouring down, crashing against the stone, and the water is rising fast. This shell once protected a turtle from absolutely everything. Rain, claws, fear itself. It was the ultimate shield. Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a beautifully animated and frankly incredibly moving fable called The Turtle Who Left Its Shell. We'll be walking through this story to really understand its deep emotional journey. We're talking about the dynamics of fear, the incredible power of friendship, and what true courage actually looks like when absolutely everything is on the line.
But on the night the flood came, it was the one thing she had to leave behind. Right away, this establishes the incredibly high stakes of our story. We're looking at a scenario where the ultimate protection suddenly becomes an impossible burden, and we're going to explore exactly why this turtle had to make such a shocking, ultimate sacrifice.
Section 1. Safety in the Shell, a hiding place from the world. Meet our protagonist. She's a young turtle named Terra, and her deep green shell was her absolute sanctuary from every perceived danger. The contrast here is fascinating. Terra retreated from passing shadows and even falling leaves, but her best friend, a rabbit named Lumi, lived with just pure, joyful freedom. While Terra hid away, Lumi was out there bounding through the forest, chasing butterflies, tumbling in the tall grass, just living her best life. Terra really admired how freely the other animals moved, but every single time the world felt too big or too loud, fear just took over. It wasn't the actual danger controlling Terra, it was the intense, paralyzing fear of it. Despite these huge differences, they shared an incredibly deep bond. Lumi would tell her, "One day you'll come all the way out, and I'll be right there when you do." Out of everyone in the forest, Lumi was the only animal who never, ever made Terra feel small for her fears. She'd just sit with her by the stream in comfortable silence. Terra trusted her completely, and honestly, she loved her friend for that patience far more than she even knew how to express. Section 2. The Sudden Roaring Flood. When the stream becomes a river. And wow, the tone shifts dramatically here. Without any warning, dark clouds completely swallow the sky. The wind starts bending the ancient trees sideways, and rain just hammers down in heavy, blinding sheets. The escalation of this threat is terrifyingly rapid. On day 1, the endless rain begins. By day 3, that quiet, gentle stream they used to sit by, it's turned into a roaring, violent brown river tearing through the forest floor. And moments later, disaster strikes. Lumi is trapped in the rocks. Now, what's really crucial here is Terra's initial reaction. While all the other animals were fleeing to higher ground, Terra did exactly what she was conditioned to do. She pulled tightly into her shell to safely ride out the storm. She was completely unaware of the chaos outside, and it didn't even cross her mind to check on her best friend. But Lumi wasn't so lucky. She was completely cut off by the rushing water and forced into the passage. This was a narrow crack in the rock wall, barely wider than Lumi herself, and it was rapidly filling with floodwater. It's a terrifying, incredibly claustrophobic situation. Over the deafening roar of the storm, Lumi calls out for help. And, miles away, totally safe inside her shell, Terra actually feels it. She feels a quiet but absolutely impossible to ignore pull in her chest. She can feel her friend's fear.
Section 3. An impossible heavy choice. The shell that stands in the way. So Terra follows her heart through the flooded forest until she finds the entrance to the passage. She sees Lumi trapped, the freezing water rising rapidly past her ankles. Terra rushes forward, trying to push into the crack in the rock, but she stops hard. Her shell is wedged completely and rigidly against the narrow stone walls. She pushes again, but it doesn't budge. The very thing that has kept her safe her entire life is now the literal physical barrier standing between her and the friend she loves.
Which brings up a huge question. What do you do when your safety stands in the way of someone you love? It's a profound emotional dilemma, right? Terra had never in her entire life imagined a version of herself without her shell. It was her identity. It was her shelter. But as she hears Lumi crying out, terrified and weak, Terra realizes something even more powerful. She could never imagine a world without Lumi in it.
And that stunning realization leads to this deeply vulnerable moment. For the first time in her life, Terra stepped into the world with nothing protecting her at all. Slowly, trembling in the cold rain, Terra does something no turtle willingly does. She pulls her small, soft body entirely out of her shell. She literally leaves it sitting empty in the mud, completely exposing herself to the raging storm.
Section 4, Braving the Dark Cave. Unguarded against the storm. The narrative tension here is just at its absolute peak. Terra, now smaller and softer than ever, pushes forward into this tight, dark, and rapidly flooding passage. She's squeezing past jagged rocks, wincing as the stone scrapes her completely unprotected skin. When a loose rock nearly hits her, she almost gives up, but instead of letting the fear win, she reaches Lumi. She presses her small body against her friend, shielding Lumi from the violent current. Without her shell, Terra actually becomes the shelter. How beautiful is that? With the water surging and nearly swallowing them, Terra pushes Lumi ahead of her, desperately forcing her way toward the collapsing exit.
And that leads us to the climax, the cave escape. It plays out like a slow-motion sequence in a movie. Just as they reach the end, the cave ceiling begins to cave in. Water and debris explode outward like a wave breaking free. And right at the last possible second, Terra and Lumi burst into the open air together. They tumble onto the wet grass just as the stone passage collapses completely behind them.
Section 5, Courage Found Within. A new dawn, a new understanding. We can finally take a breath here. The dark, raging storm clouds begin to part, and they're replaced by this warm, beautiful, amber morning light. Both friends are just lying there on the wet grass, gasping, shaking, but entirely safe.
A breathless, tearful Lumi looks at Terra, who, remember, is entirely exposed, and asks in total disbelief, "You came without your shell? For me?" And Terra, surprised by her own certainty, just replies, "I didn't need it. I just needed you to be okay."
Terra eventually walks back to the collapsed cave entrance and finds her shell exactly where she left it. She steps back inside, but, everything has changed. Now she keeps her head out in the sunlight. She doesn't hide anymore. As she walks through the forest, she leads the way forward fearlessly. She finally realizes the shell was never her courage, it was just a place to rest. And the best part? Her new, visible bravery immediately inspires another young, fearful turtle in the forest to finally poke its head out of its own shell and into the morning light.
This brings us to the ultimate takeaway of our explainer today. Real courage isn't the absence of fear or the presence of protection. It's choosing to step into the open for someone you love. Terra didn't lose her fear entirely. Rather, she realized that fear no longer got to decide who she was. True courage was something she carried inside herself all along.
I want to leave you with this final thought, and it's a question directly for you. Have you ever had to step outside your comfort zone for someone you love? Have you ever had to leave your own metaphorical shell behind? Think about that as you reflect on Terra and Lumi's story. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to carry a little bit of Terra's courage with you today.